Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 70. We got old faces, new places. We're brought to you by Dynasty Theory in partnership with Dynasty Daddy and as always, Fantasy Football Infinity. Please join the Dynasty Theory Discord. It is free to join and like, comment, and subscribe on the videos. I got McSpanky and Holler with me tonight. How's it going, guys?
It's going, man. We're in the heat of summer. I just saw the NFL posted the training camp dates, so we're about a month out from players reporting for training camp. So some
Let's
real
go.
football is on its way.
Yes, I got an
Wow.
email the other day that the Rams training camp is going to be at a college near me, LMU. So I think it's like 10-minute Loyola Marymount. It's down
okay.
in
Okay.
They're basketball school, right?
they're like mediocre in a little bit of basketball and baseball. I think they've been in the tournament a couple times in either of those. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go because it's super close, only like 20 minutes away. So
There we go.
I want to
Boots
go
on the ground reporting. Let's go.
You know it. Yep.
Hell yeah, man.
So
Careful taking those videos because I
wanted
got
to
yelled
go
at a few times at Lions camp.
Yeah,
I've been to put that. Yeah.
A couple years ago, I went
There's
to,
like only points in time you can do it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I went to Dallas training camp because they're in Oxnard, and my mom and stepdad live in Oxnard, so I've been to that one, and it was okay. I'm not a Cowboys fan, so that's why I was just like, man, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
But
Just
it'll be
like
different.
Apple Lions ones. It's fun. Yeah. I'm trying to take my oldest daughter this year, and she'll get to play on all like the kids' activities and stuff like that, and I'll get some football practice in, so it'll be cool.
Let's go.
Should we pop into the news?
Let's do it.
Okay, we got T. Higgins signing his franchise tag. Does this change anything about T. Higgins with you guys? Are you happy that he signed this so we at least know we're probably going to get this season? I don't know. I don't think he would hold out at this point. Like he's signed it now. That kind of ends his little holdout that he was doing from the OTAs or whatever. And we know Chase is also holding out as well for a new contract too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it changes my overall opinion of him just as a player, but it does make me feel better that we're probably going to get the best from him. Just because I think at this point he's playing for a new contract, right? And so, and last year, I mean his points per touch were actually pretty good. Like I was pulling it up earlier, and he was down like 16th in points per touch, which was like really good. The problem was he didn't get a lot of touches, and a lot of that was he had targets that were just nowhere near him due to poor quarterback play. And so I'm assuming with Joe Burrow back, some of those numbers should go back up, and we'll hopefully get the best of T. Higgins, and maybe we'll actually get what we expect from him. So I know like he's been a player for the longest time where like his value's been a lot higher than his actual production is, and I think his value's starting to creep back down into an area where I can kind of get on board with. Okay, maybe I can sign up for some T. Higgins.
Yeah, so I was surprised you had a trade idea here to get Higgins, because I remember last summer we were all about like pivot off of Higgins, but I'm with you here. I think his value has kind of dropped a bit. Like in some of the startups I've seen, he's gone, like behind some wide receivers that I feel like he should go ahead of, right? And JB's got him down in tier 9, and like with Tank Dell and Brian Thomas. And then guys ahead of him are like Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore. I could go either way with all those guys, but like I could see, I like the pivot you have here of like Michael Pittman, Waddle, or Devonta Smith. I like pivoting off of both of Waddle and Devonta Smith would be a good call, because I feel like I agree with you. I think he's going to kind of put his best foot forward this year and try to show what he can do. And Joe Burrow will be back, so I think that whole offense should be good. And then either the Bengals will pay him, or I personally think he's going to be on his way because they're going to pay
Chase,
Jamar Chase. Thank you. And so but I think it's going to be a good year, right? They don't have a tight end. And so I think it's going to be Jamar Chase and T. Higgins show.
You're not down with Mike Gesicki?
No.
Mike Gesicki hasn't been relevant in about 3 years, I feel like. Just the trade idea I had here to get T. Higgins, so you kind of touched on it, was tearing down basically from Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith to get down to Higgins, and then adding someone kind of in that like third round vet range. And the names I had here were Gus Edwards and Zeke. I think both of those guys can help you with, and we'll talk about both of them here in a minute. But I think those are kind of guys that can help you win. There's some nice depth pieces that should be in plenty of position to score touchdowns and get you plenty of points. They're not going to be like fun. You're not going to love starting them, but they should pay off.
Yeah, so I like that pivot a lot. Like, I like Michael Pittman personally, but I do know like we worry with Anthony Richardson and his passing. So all three of those guys, like I want to say totally out on Devonta Smith, but that's one of the guys that I've said to move off of. And same with Waddle. Like, I like Jalen Waddle, but I worry with Tyreek Hill. So
Tyreek, yeah.
Yeah, because when he was the show before Tyreek got there, like, he was fine, but it was a lot of just like dink and dunk kind of stuff, and that was I worry about offense as a whole when it's just Jalen Waddle there and it's on the running backs, not because I think Tyreek's the gas that makes that engine go.
Yep, and then they also have. I was just gonna say they also have A-Chan, so there's a lot of mouths to feed there. I feel like.
Yeah. I agree that it was a lot of dink and dunk, but I think we also have to take into consideration that Brian Flores was the head coach for that time without Tyreek Hill. So we had no Mike McDaniel, Shanahan offense installed there.
Yep.
And I think putting our faith into that Shanahan system, and that as we've seen it. I mean, River Craycraft is out there catching touchdowns. Braxton Berrios has points in time. You're like, should I be rostering this guy? It's. I just think that system as a whole is really good. And Brian Flores did zero favors for Tua. That's for sure.
Totally.
For sure. Definitely. I was just going to say, I'm always cautious about defensive head coaches with rookie and young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So Jaden Daniels.
Well, he's got, Cliff Kingsbury, in the house. So
that doesn't make it better.
No, it does not.
We have Trevor Lawrence signing a massive deal. So glad the Lions paid Goff before Trevor Lawrence got his deal, so we didn't have to up that again. What do you guys think about the Trevor Lawrence money? Is it smart? Is it dumb by them?
Here's the thing. I don't know if it's dumb by them because, like, one of the easiest things to do is just get worse at quarterback, right? And we've seen Trevor Lawrence. He's fine, right? And Ron, you and I, as Lions and Raiders fans, have known our fair share of not having a good quarterback for a long time.
Yeah, it hurts.
The Jaguars finally have something that I don't know if Trevor Lawrence can get you to a Super Bowl, but he's not like bottom of the league bad either. So, and he's a young guy. This is just. If you want to keep your quarterback, that's just you have to pay him what you paid him here. The cap's going up. It is kind of crazy though, because he got the same average contract money per year as Joe Burrow did at $55 million. Burrow got like a few million more in fully guaranteed money, but it's just crazy because we've seen flashes of Trevor Lawrence, but not like we haven't seen him fully put it together. But I guess if you're the Jaguars, you gotta hope that it'll get there.
And I think a little bit of this might be like there's not really a good quarterback coming in 25, right? So I don't really think they want to re-roll. So, and I think with the cap always going up and everything, I think this is kind of what you have to pay your top 12 quarterbacks, right? I wouldn't even and so you just see like this is like the type of money that a starting quarterback is getting nowadays. And so to me, I think it's, I don't know if it's warranted, but I think that's what they have to pay. Right. And so I think it's solid for the Jaguars. And I just think Trevor Lawrence is going to be better than unless they can go out and get somebody else. But most of the quarterbacks are being, are locked up. Right. So I think just they're in the best position to go ahead and pay Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and I think it's better to pay him now than wait a year and then do it in the offseason because you're going to end up paying him even more.
Yep.
Imagine if he does take a step forward.
Yeah, exactly. And then, guys like Dak next year are going to get paid, and it's probably going to be some silly money going around there. So.
Yeah, definitely. Are you guys betting on Trevor Lawrence taking that step forward, or do you think this is kind of where he stays?
So that's a good question. I've gone back and forth on it too, because like I've been on the opinion that he's kind of just okay. He's not going to live up to kind of what hype we had. But then you see all these clips of him like basically his receivers dropping like 9 different touchdowns last year, or his numbers could have looked so much better. And it's just like, I mean, how much of it is, it's not his fault when his receivers should drop the ball. And then the last like month of the season, everyone was hurt, right? And he was throwing to like Parker Washington and a bunch of just
he was hurt himself.
Dudes. And exactly. And they couldn't even bring him a cart. I remember that whole thing where he had to walk himself to the locker room. So
hopefully in his new contract,
they gambled all the money away down in Jacksonville. It cost him that golf cart, is what it did.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have signed my contract as long as I could get in there. If I get in, I will get a cart. But I'm with Spanky. Like I'm kind of like, if I have him on my team, obviously I don't want to go tier down, and then I would see about moving up a little bit, right? Yeah, it's impossible, right? And so right now in JB's tiers, he's by himself in tier 6. So if you can move up to like Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, or Dak Prescott, which I think it'd be very hard to move off of Trevor Lawrence and go to Jordan Love. But if you can get maybe a Brock Purdy, or I know you guys aren't love Dak Prescott, but I think he puts up really good numbers for fantasy. So if I can move from Trevor Lawrence and go to Dak Prescott, and I'm only spending a little extra, I would do that in a heartbeat. But I think this is kind of what he's going to be, right? Probably a QB2 with some flashes of a QB1 some weeks.
Would you add a second to Trevor Lawrence to get the Dak, or is that too much?
Is it an early second, mid, late?
Let's call it mid.
Mid? I'd add
just
a mid.
For funsies.
I would add a mid to go up to Dak.
I would do that too, because if I feel like it's a mid second, I feel like, okay, if I add Dak, he's going to probably be my QB2, right? And so I feel like my team will probably make a run for it, and that could end up being a playoff second.
Fair.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, the only concern I have with Trevor Lawrence is like, so we talked about how his receivers kind of let him down last year, but did his receiving core necessarily get better? I know. I guess I mean they drafted Brian Thomas, and then they let Zay Jones walk, and they brought in Gabe Davis, who isn't exactly a picture of consistency himself. So I guess you're really betting on Brian Thomas Jr.
So in theory, they got better. A lot of people love Brian Thomas Jr. As a wide receiver 1, right? And then clearly you still have Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
So even if Brian Thomas Jr. is not like this bona fide wide receiver 1 alpha guy, I think you're still going to have Christian Kirk, and Brian Thomas, I think, is a good wide receiver. I don't love him as much as, the general population does. And so I think he does elevate that wide receiver room a little bit more, right? You're losing Calvin Ridley, but I think, in my opinion, Brian Thomas Jr. is better than Calvin Ridley. Obviously, he's younger. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you two are on that same, but I do.
I can't get on that train. I think the wide receiver room got worse, losing Calvin Ridley and all his experience, as the elderly statesman. I think that's going to hurt more so. And, Gabe Davis will have his one game. And honestly, I kind of see Brian Thomas as kind of like Gabe Davis, like a big splash game can happen and then just kind of disappear. I could totally see that happening just from, the film that I watched. I kind of felt like that's how he was in college, but, you get play a lot of weaker competition, so you can have more explosive games along those lines. And really, I mean, we know Christian Kirk's a good wide receiver and stuff, but do you think any defense goes in there fearing Christian Kirk? I don't think that anybody's really, afraid of Christian Kirk taking over games, against them coming out of the slot. I don't know.
No, but I think that helps Christian Kirk, though, because defenses are going to worry about Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. running past them. And Christian Kirk's actually a good route runner, probably the only one on that team that can run routes. So I think it should help. I'm all in on the Christian Kirk train this year. So.
Yeah. Same.
Oh yeah. I'm kind of I'm halfway out of the boat on Trevor Lawrence at this point, just because I think we saw the same in song and dance with Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz at one point in time in Philadelphia, where we all thought Carson Wentz was going to be a thing. And he played even better than what we've seen Trevor Lawrence play at this point in time. I mean, Wentz was up there for an MVP at one point in time when they made that Super Bowl run before he tore his ACL. We haven't seen that from Trevor Lawrence, and like Doug Peterson bringing in wide receivers isn't all that exciting to me either, because they never really had any in Philly either, except for when they brought in Alshon Jeffrey, and that was like the end of Jeffrey's career. So like, just whatever Doug Peterson's doing, like I don't know that I totally believe in it and want to buy into that. Like I don't want to acquire any more Trevor Lawrence. I would trade some Trevor Lawrence away. It's really hard to tear down from him. It's hard to go up with him because everybody wants, freaking your soul added on to Trevor Lawrence for them to take him on at this point in time.
Everyone's scared.
Struggled to move them. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's really a hold position.
And just on the Doug Peterson thing, just for some food for thought, Doug Peterson was there when they drafted Jalen Reagor and brought in Alshon Jeffrey. So do with that information what you will. But
Brian Thomas.
Gross.
Exactly. Not saying the two things are equal, but they passed over Justin Jefferson for Jalen Reagor, so that's not ideal.
Are we going to see it again?
Maybe.
Should we get into these old faces in some new places?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So let's hit these running backs real quick. So I put some stuff together. Basically, going back to 2020, there was a bunch of running backs who changed teams, not being traded. So there's two buckets of players here. There's guys who the teams let them hit free agency and just sign somewhere else, and there's also a bucket of guys who their teams actually traded them away. So it's a little bit different, but essentially all the running backs who left, there's I think I have 10 here, just counting real quickly. Only one of them got better in terms of fantasy points per game the next season on their new team. Everyone else, it was pretty bad. We're talking Miles Sanders went down 7 points per game. Jamal Williams went down 8. Samaje Perine went down 1.5. Dalvin Cook went down 11. Zeke went down 2 points per game. Devin Singletary, even he was pretty good last year, and he still went down 1.85 points per game. The only one who did better was David Montgomery. And so not to spoil some of these running backs who we think, it's going to be all roses and the grass is greener, but for the most part, it hasn't been, and it's been significantly worse with the exception of David Montgomery. But that you can kind of see that as, well, he went from the Bears and their mediocre offense. Well, mediocre is generous. Their bad offense. And then he went and played behind the best offensive line in football in Detroit. So you can kind of see how that worked out. But I don't know. Out of this group of guys, so let me read off some names that are here. There's Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard, Gus Edwards, Zeke, J.K. Dobbins, and Austin Eckler all fit into this bucket of guys who hit the free agent market and switch teams. Do you feel like any of them are kind of on that Dave Montgomery path that can, I guess, improve?
So if I picked one, it'd be Saquon. And then also Derrick Henry. But I think to me, Derrick Henry is an outlier. But I think the big one I would pick would be Saquon, right? I think him going to Philadelphia, they have a better offensive line than New York did. So I just think he's in a really good situation there. I do think he may be he may take a step back in touchdowns. But I don't like the whole Eagles offense. I think Saquon's the only one I feel okay buying into, right? I guess AJ Brown as well. But I've talked about it before, but with Kellen Moore coming in there, I just worry about the Eagles offense. And I don't know if Aaron Jones will be in the green per se, but I do think he's in a good situation, right? I think him being, either if it's going to be Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy, I think they're both going to lean on Aaron Jones quite a bit, and nobody else is there. So he would be my second guy. Third after, because Derrick Henry, I think it's hard to bring him up without because to me he's an outlier, right? So I still think he's going to be really good. I still think he can. His yardage will be down a little bit, but I still think he's going to put up a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, I can't buy into Saquon the way I don't know. Your messaging was a little confusing because you seemed like you liked him, but then you also seemed like you were down
Yeah.
on him. So I'm not quite sure where you landed on him. But Saquon, I can't really buy into. His value is up at running back 8 right now. Mike Clay, actually, so I was looking at his projections. He has him down for about 18 points per game, which would have gone up 2 points from his last season in New York. I can see it, and I think the thing with Saquon is like, do you believe he's going to get the red zone touches, or do you think Jalen Hurts is still going to get those touchdowns? I could see it kind of going either way. I could talk to myself either way. It's a different offensive coordinator, so they might have a different offensive philosophy. So they might not necessarily use that whole, Jalen Hurts tush push kind of deal. They lost Jason Kelce as their center for that, so they might try to run to more traditional goal line formations. Saquon's the best red zone running back they've had in a long time. Say what you want about DeAndre Swift, but Saquon's significantly better. So I could kind of see
not a conversation.
Yeah, so I don't know, but at running back 8, are you? I don't know how you could pay up for Saquon at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would not buy. I did end up buying one, but that's because I got a smash of a deal. I moved up one spot in the draft, or back one spot in the draft. I got Barkley in 104 for Tajay Spears in 103. So I was at 103, moved to 104, right? And so that one was like a no-brainer, and I felt like my team was even though I had early picks, I think it was a pick that wasn't mine. And so I just felt like my team was in a position to, if I can add Saquon Barkley, I feel like my team would be in a really good position. And then I'd have no problem moving off of Tajay Spears to get to Saquon Barkley. And then not really, the biggest thing was I wasn't moving. I only moved back one spot. That ended up being Barkley and JJ McCarthy for Tajay Spears and Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, can't argue with that. The one I really like is Derrick Henry. I think he's the one that's really poised to be in the best, just like rushing offense, and going from Tennessee's just disaster of an offense last year to like a fully functional playoff offense. I think that's going to be fantastic for him. The threat of a rushing quarterback with Lamar, they don't pass a ton, and so I think there's going to be plenty of rushing volume. There's not a ton of competition for touches there either. I mean, Keaton Mitchell's might not be ready for the season. I don't know if Justice Hill will be ready to go, even at that point, it's Justice Hill, right? So it's not like does it matter? So it should be the Derrick Henry show. He should have a ton of volume. It's a pretty solid offensive line. I think he's the one that he's in line for a bunch of touchdowns, a bunch of volume. And I know he's older and it's scary buying into those running backs. But if you're in a position where you think you're going to win a championship, man, go for it. Go get
Derrick
your boy.
I
think he's your guy. I think he's going to put you over the edge. And with that, my question to you guys is, how much would you be willing to pay for Derrick Henry if you think, let's say your team last year lost in the semifinals, right? So, third, fourth place finish, and your team's back, you're ready to go, you feel good, but you need that one piece. Do you think what would you give up to get to him?
So, I want to say, hold on, let me find them here.
I'm looking at some trades but before I dive into these a little bit more, I think, it's on my mind now because you put it in there, but I would definitely pay a second and a third. If I needed to pay or add some players in there, I think I would sell Tajay Spears or Tony Pollard, and if I needed to add to one of those guys, I hope I wouldn't have to, but if I had to, I think I would add a third, right? Because I think you've said it before, Spanky, but I don't think thirds, you shouldn't hold up a trade for it because of a third.
Right.
Yeah, I think the problem you'll run into with trying to acquire Derrick Henry is he's already on another contender in that league, and they're going to say, I want to see a first at least. Which, honestly, if you think you're that strong of a contender and you want to make that bet on yourself,
that's what I was fishing for. So
I wouldn't totally blame you, but that's what it's going to take, because he's probably on another contender in your league who already thinks they have a good shot at the title too. And they may just say, kick rocks, dude. I'm just going to ride Derrick Henry into the ground because I know what Derrick Henry is. And his points per game are worth more to me than what I can get for Derrick Henry in trade value.
Here's an
That's totally
interesting
fair.
one. I just looked on Dynasty Daddy. Terry McLaurin, Saquon Barkley for Derrick Henry and a 25 first. I would like to know more about the teams, but like, I don't know.
So
Uh,
that's a weird one because why are you getting the pick and Derrick Henry? I feel like
yeah, that's why I
should-
said I would like to see more of the team. But the reason I say
Well,
that's like interesting is like, if, for example, Spanky, if you're not really in on Saquon Barkley, like I don't mind shipping away Terry McLaurin and getting myself Derrick Henry in a first.
yeah, McLaurin isn't the piece holding me up there. It's just if you
Yeah,
think
why? Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
I don't. Yeah, there's not much more. Like, here's another one: a 25 first for Derrick Henry and a third. Right, so that's kind of going back to that.
There you go.
Like,
Mhm.
I would do that probably if I felt like my team was, if I lost in the semis, my team is probably going to be top 4. So I feel like I would do that.
Yeah, the only thing there with Derrick Henry is like, yes, he probably was on a contender, but sometimes it could have been like the last year of their contender window, and they had some guys kind of ship out, and now they're like, well, crap, now I need to rebuild, so they are trying to get some points. But I think, like, if you think Derrick Henry's going to win you a championship, like if it costs you a back end like the 112, like. Is it like I know shipping out a first compared to like what you might think is like an early second, like mentally I think it's a bigger deal, but really at the end of the day, is the 112 that much different than like the 203 or like value wise for it, right? Like
usually there's not a break there, a tier break. It's like usually that 112 guy is around the same as the 201 to 203. So yeah, I mean, I if I feel like my team, like if I added a Derrick Henry and my team would be that much better, as like maybe even hopefully he would be maybe my flex play, right? Or even he's my running back 2 in a bye week situation. I would feel pretty good about my team there, and I would definitely send that first probably.
Yeah, I know I sent a first for him last year, and I wound up losing, or I wound up with like it wound up being the 110 or something like that. And like I still wasn't even all that upset, even at the that I gave up a 110 for Derrick Henry because of what you said. I mean, really, like even this year, almost 110 to like 203 ish, pretty much shake him up in a bag and pick what you want out of there.
Yep, totally.
Any other running backs stand out to you guys?
Sorry, go ahead, Holler.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't like it's really stand out, but I talked about a little bit. Aaron Jones, his cost is pretty low, and then just like I said before, I think he's going to be used quite a bit, right? I know there's a lot of pieces there, a lot of on the offense. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and then Hawk Daddy when he comes back. But I just think he's going to be used a lot. He's going to be their number 1 running back. He's still a solid running back. He did really well last year. And so like down at running back 27, I think there's running backs ahead of him that he easily will outproduce. And so I saw on Dynasty Daddy, Spanky had it here as well. Like if you could buy him for a 25 second, obviously it's probably going to be a late 25 second. I would do that in a heartbeat. Also, I've been getting him in some later in the drafts that I've been doing some startups this off season, and he's been pretty cheap. I think like rounds 11 through 13 is a really good spot for him.
Yeah, dude, I like Aaron Jones, and I think the what's nice about him is that like I think the offense in Minnesota might only be okay this year, but he's the only like show in town, right? Like Ty Chandler doesn't scare me, and after that, I don't even know who some of their running backs are. I think
Nini Nwangwu.
That's the one I knew, but I didn't know how to say it, and I didn't want to attempt to say it. So
I'll butcher the shit out of it.
Perfect. So yeah, Aaron Jones, and I think Sam Darnold both and JJ McCarthy will probably check down the running backs quite a bit. And so Aaron Jones stands just on pass catching volume alone should be fine. Not to mention just the rushing volume because they can't throw every down. They have a pretty good offensive line in Minnesota. I don't know. I didn't really see too many signs of Aaron Jones slowing down, other than just like he kind of got banged up. He's a little bit older, but
It's like his normal yearly thing. There seems to always be like a month where you're just like, God, Aaron, just get on the field, dude. Just play. Just play in the game.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so that's another one I like. I mean, I think Josh Jacobs will be fine. I don't love DeAndre Swift this year. Same thing with Tony Pollard. And then a super cheap guys are, I think you talked about already, Gus Edwards and Zeke Elliott. Those guys, if you can get those guys for a couple thirds, like that's really good depth pieces for your team.
That's what I had down there. So 2/3 for either one of those guys. I mean, if you could get them for a single third, go for it. But I mean, Gus Edwards, like, what's standing his way to a ton of volume there? It's J.K. Dobbins, who at this point, what does he look like coming off of multiple knee injuries and an Achilles tear? And then Zeke. I mean, it's him and Rico Dowdle in the backfield. Like, and Zeke's getting the goal line carry, so he doesn't even have to do anything. He could have one of those like LeGarrette Blount type seasons where he has like 12 touchdowns and doesn't run for over 100 yards a single time, but it doesn't matter because he's getting you a ton of points.
I really like the Gus Edwards one. I think Gus is probably my second favorite to Derrick Henry on here, especially after Austin Eckler came out and made the comments about they want a back that can carry the ball 300 times, and that's just not me. And that's why Eckler parted ways with the Chargers, which is totally fine because, I mean, good on him for realizing that that's not what his game is. But I can tell you what, that's Gus Edwards' game for sure. It's just toting that rock between the tackles. It's going to be nasty and ugly, but just hope he falls into the end zone in 60 yards, just like Zeke style.
Yeah, speaking of Austin Eckler, he's dead to me. He's got no juice left in the tank, and I just don't. I think Brian Robinson's going to carry most of the volume there. I don't think Eckler. This feels like another like Miles Sanders type deal where he's just going to fall off the face of the earth, just on a new team. So if you have any Eckler, I would try to sell him for anything that you can because I just don't see a path to him being useful.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be useful per se, but I think maybe he'll get some of the passing work, obviously, because Brian Robinson that's not his game really. He did well last year there, but I just think that's not really his game, and so I think it's going to be a 1-2. Like he'll be definitely take a step behind Brian Robinson, be the number 2 for sure.
And I don't know how much Jaden Daniels is going to check down to his running backs like that. Like, is he in a place in his quarterback development that he'll check it down, or he's going to take off and run if nothing's there?
I think I know the answer to that one.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I mean?
In my opinion, he's just going to run. There's no reason for. He's going to be like, I can get this better than if I toss the ball over there to the running back.
Well, he'll blow past Austin Eckler. Eckler will be 2 yards downfield by the time Jaden Daniels is 20 yards downfield. So
you're supposed to meet me in the end zone.
Like, I'm trying, man.
Get out the scooter. Okay. Should we hop into these wide receivers? I'm talking
yeah. Let's do it. So with wide receivers, it's a little less bleak. It's about half and half whether receivers get better or worse when they walk in free agency, and a lot of it is just depending on where they are in their careers and how good of receivers they are in general. Some of the ones that did well was Christian Kirk and Adam Thielen from last year. Jacoby Myers actually did really well too. Zay Jones surprisingly did really well when he went from Arizona not Arizona. Where was he before Vegas?
Buffalo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. When he went to Vegas, where he had kind of a career-saving move there. So some of the guys that fit in this bucket, we got Calvin Ridley, Curtis Samuel, Gabe Davis, Mike Williams, Darnell Mooney, DJ Chark, Claypool, Diontae Johnson, Stephon Diggs, and Keenan Allen. Or sorry, some of those guys at the end. Those last 3 I said were traded, so they actually in a different bucket, but it's similar data where guys who were traded generally do better for the most part, unless they just completely flop. The 2 that just really sucked were Robert Woods and Julio Jones, but that's because they were basically dead. So, what do you guys think of these guys? Who stands out to you?
For me, it's going to be Hollywood Brown, just because he gets that Mahomes bump. I think he can catch a little bit better than what MVS does.
Okay.
And I think the Chiefs really need, they need a burner on that offense to open everything else up underneath for Kelsey and for Rashee Rice. We see that's where he does most of his work. And other than those two, there's not really anybody else to take any targets away from Hollywood Brown. He's going to make sure. Oh, yeah. Gosh, I forgot. Is his hamstring ever going to get better?
It'll be fine. He said it's the best
it'll
of
be
his life.
I'm not worried.
It will be.
His hamstring it's concerning me right now. I'll put a damper on Xavier Worthy. It's really hard to learn this Andy Reid offense other than go run fast. It might take a year or two, or we might see an end of the season type deal like we did with Rashee Rice when he really came on for the Chiefs. And that really depends on his health and how quickly he can pick up the offense and things along those lines.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Hollywood's maybe one of them that I like, but the big one I like mainly just because that his price, and I think he's going to do really well, is Curtis Samuel. I was just trying to pop this up right now. I just got him in the 15th round of a startup. And I think there'll be times that I can pop him in my lineup. This one's only a start 9, but in a start 11, you feel really good about putting him in your lineup, I think, this year. And, he's tied to – we can say that Hollywood's tied to Patrick Mahomes, but Curtis Samuel's tied to Josh Allen, right? I think obviously there's a difference there, but in my opinion, not much. That Buffalo Bills put up a lot of points, and somebody is going to get the catches, right? I know Keon Coleman is a good player, but I think Curtis Samuel is going to be the biggest beneficiary there. And then I also like Diontae Johnson. I just think he's going to get peppered. I think his price is kind of right in the middle there. He's usually pretty cheap, but I think it's coming up a little bit. But in overall, I think he's going to be just peppered. And I've heard good things that Bryce Young is looking really good. So that might be a little bit of my I like Bryce Young. So, but overall, I've seen some good things with like reports and everything. So those would be my two.
Yeah. So let me tie a bow on Curtis Samuel real quick. I think the difference between Samuel and Hollywood for me. So one, the price is significantly different. Hollywood's like what, wide receiver 20. Sorry, I just lost my place.
So in reference here, go ahead. I can tell you after.
He's wide receiver 48, and then Curtis Samuel's at wide receiver 72 or 71. So, and the other thing with Hollywood is there is Rashee Rice, there's Travis Kelsey in that offense. There's Xavier Worthy, who they drafted. In Buffalo, it's Curtis Samuel's there. It's Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, who's, I like Coleman, but he's not like an established threat. And then Dalton Kincaid, who had a nice solid year as a rookie, but he's no Travis Kelsey, right? No, he's not. Like, yeah, he might be, but we don't know that. And so it seems like the path to targets is what is there for Curtis Samuel, and he's a lot cheaper. The other thing is his best season was in Carolina under Joe Brady when Teddy Bridgewater was quarterback, and he went over 1,000 yards. And now Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. So he is reunited. He should know the kind of offense they want to run, which I think – I mean, it's like him or Shakir. Whoever gets that slot role is probably going to be really solid if they don't end up splitting time, which is a valid concern. But
I could see Curtis Samuel outscoring Hollywood Brown. And in that same startup, Hollywood Brown went 8-2, and I got Curtis Samuel 15-1, right? So, like, the price is just drastically different. And I think they'll be close in scoring, but I just think like you said, Spanky, there's not much there to take away from him getting a lot of targets.
For sure.
What do you guys need added to Curtis Samuel to come down from Hollywood Brown?
Give me 1 second on that. Let me think about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Probably a decent amount, but not like crazy. Let me see here. Let's see how far off are we?
Are you going to first to do that? Are you going to have to add to do that?
Since we talked about it already, and I feel like if I'm getting Curtis Samuel, right, I feel like my team is contending. I would take Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry and Curtis Samuel for Hollywood Brown, and if I had to throw in a second or third, I would do it.
I, I don't
I
think I
don't know if
need
that gets done.
quite that far, but I think so. If I'm going from Hollywood down to Curtis Samuel, give me like a Zach Moss type of player, and on
Okay.
the Curtis Samuel side, and I'll feel pretty good. Not
Okay.
super great, but I'll feel pretty good.
Okay. You guys are loving the Curtis Samuel. He makes me nervous, man.
It's more that I don't like Hollywood Brown. It's more the
That's fair.
issue here. And
That's
I don't know if Hollywood is because why did they not give him like very much money? They did that with Juju Smith-Schuster too, and then they drafted Xavier Worthy, and I think they intend to use Worthy. Rashee Rice, I don't think the further we go, the more likely I feel like it is he's not going to be suspended, or it'll be like a lesser suspension.
Sure.
So, and then Travis Kelce's going to be there, and he's going to. What did he say the other day? He's like, just use me into the ground or something to that effect. He says dumb shit every time he gets the microphone. But yeah, like I think he's gonna, he's gonna get his still.
Sure.
So, I don't know. I've never been much of a Hollywood fan, to be fair.
Yeah, I never was either until he started to get really cheap last year when he was hurt.
Sure.
And I found myself falling into some Hollywood Brown a little bit there. And I can't stop trying to get that Mahomes wide receiver one, man. I know it's Kelce, but I'll just keep trying at it. I got some Worthy, I got some Hollywood Brown, I got some Rashee Rice. So they're sprinkled all throughout my rosters. So somebody's going to help me out this year for sure. I just like betting on, Mahomes and Andy Reid to make me look right.
That's fair.
If you're worried about Curtis Samuel, who do you think is the receiver for the Bills?
It's not a receiver thing. It's actually like his injury.
The player?
Yeah, just Curtis Samuel himself. He spent a lot of time hurt, and I always just like he's good when he's on the field and he does some explosive stuff, man. But dude, he always seems to be dinged up, and I don't like to do that with Curtis Samuel.
You can't predict injury, Ron.
I know you can't, but he just makes me nervous because he's done it so many times to me.
How many games do you think he's missed the last 2 years?
I was just pulling this up too, yeah.
Man, I'm probably gonna be super wrong now. Let me go to Pro Football Reference.
No, don't. No, I need you to guess. How
many games has he missed in the last 2 years? Let me say 10 games.
He's missed one game.
1 game in 2 years. Jeez Louise, Ron, what are you talking about?
Like a picture of health.
Man, why is he
got him?
No, well, but to your point though, like his first couple years in the league, he played 9 games, 13 games. He had a season where he only played 5. Other than that, he's only missed 2 games in a couple seasons. So like,
okay, I'll give you that, but he makes me nervous.
And to me though, I think he just hasn't been tied to other than when he was like outside of his 1,000 yards with Carolina, right? You said, yeah. He hasn't really played with a really good quarterback. So I just think he's got a huge upgrade here. And his
best quarterback was Teddy, arguably.
So
he played at the tail end of Cam Newton's career in Carolina, and then he got the crap in Washington that they've toted out the last 3 years. So I don't know, man. I could be talking myself into some serious Curtis Samuel. He could be a potential. I don't want to say he's a league winner, but like he could be a sneaky, like really useful wide receiver for you.
That's fair.
Especially because Joe Brady likes him and brought him in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I do like that part of it.
And he's so cheap. Like even if you're wrong, like what are you paying for him? Down at like wide receiver 70 pricing? Like are you gonna send a third for him? And if you're wrong, like okay, you missed out on a 3rd round pick next year.
Yeah, from that aspect for sure. For some reason, I still had in my head that the Hollywood Brown trade scenario. And sure. If you were to tear down like that way, I think you could wind up disappointed. But sending like a 3rd or something like that, or
I disagree.
I will though.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
Because I don't think like Hollywood Brown's going to be this like week in week out like crazy point scorer. think that's more than it. Like, so I don't think if you're tearing down from him, it's not going to be that disappointing.
Okay.
I can't wait until I get a bunch of Curtis Samuel trade offers in my inbox.
Send
I
them.
don't have very much at all, so don't worry about it from me. I've already been yelled at enough by you this week. So
Ron, I think
I didn't yell at you.
I think Wes is with you though. He says Curtis Samuel equals Will Fuller. I disagree there, but
Will Fuller was good.
Yeah, I mean Curtis Samuel's good when he's on the field. I'm not saying that he's a bad player at all. He makes me nervous, and maybe it is those first few years just still lingering in the back of my mind with Curtis Samuel, and that's probably what it is. But I just can't get behind it, fully. But like what you guys are talking about, like round 15, I sure as hell can take him at round 15, and I sure as hell can send you a third for Curtis Samuel for sure. But
if you're a contender, would you send a late too?
Oh no,
I'm pushing it now. All right,
no.
I had to see where the line was.
Yeah, I would. Definitely into that second.
Maybe I win it. That feels like expensive.
He said, "Wow, you can't trust him to last the season."
Did you miss the part where he's only missed one game?
They've already proved me wrong, Wes. They've already done it. I tried for you. Any of these other wide receivers stick out here? Any Darnell Mooney, DJ Chark love?
Mooney is the one that I would say. Kirk Cousins generally has his extra receivers pretty well. Like Jordan Addison had a really nice season last year. Now, don't hear what I'm like. That I'm not saying Darnell Mooney is anything near what Jordan Addison is, but there's also no one similar to Justin Jefferson on that offense in Atlanta either. So I think Kyle Pitts is fine. I think Drake London's a really good player, but they're going to need an extra guy. And I think Darnell Mooney, I think he was a really good receiver. He got lost in Chicago because they had no one to throw him the ball. I don't think there's countless clips of him just running wide open down the sideline and the ball's just nowhere near him because Justin Fields was just said, screw it, I'm going to do it myself. And just goes running or throws it, sails it 10 yards over his head, right? So, man, I think we Darnell Mooney. He's cheap too.
Super cheap. Same kind of. I feel much better about Samuel than I do Darnell Mooney, but I just think there will be some games that Darnell Mooney will get you a touchdown. I think and so I do think it's going to funnel a lot to Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan, obviously. But I do think, he's the fourth option for sure there. And there's really nobody else outside of that.
And he's like their legit, deep threat too. Like he's fast. And I think there's going to be opportunities for him to hit some home run balls. So he might not be an every week starter for you, but he could be bye weeks and maybe you have some injuries and maybe he catches a 60-yard bomb and you're good to go.
Yep. And Kirk Cousins will get him the ball. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before. Justin Fields was the very bottom of the list on downfield accuracy, and Kirk Cousins is at the very top of the list. So it's a massive upgrade for Darnell Mooney right there. And there was one point in time where we thought Darnell Mooney would be a thing for sure. So I think he's got a little bit of talent there, that maybe he could surprise some people.
He still could be. He could be a thing.
Right. I mean, he just played with Justin Fields for 3 years. So exactly. We give a whole hell of a lot of people a lot more breaks on, having bad quarterback play and things of that nature. Not that we haven't given to Darnell Mooney. That's for sure. Could have won him a game too, but he dropped that one. So, I mean, there's that. I think it did bounce off a few people and kind of fall in his lap and surprise them maybe or something. But anything else on these wide receivers? You guys interested in DJ Chark at all? That's got to be like a fifth.
No Chark.
No Chark.
That's dead. But Diontae Johnson is one that Holler, you touched on him, but I think he's in for a really good season. I think. If you just think about how well Adam Thielen did there last year, is kind of the only guy. Diontae Johnson can actually run routes. He can still get open. I think he's in line for a huge season. And down at wide receiver 45 right now, Dynasty Daddy, I feel like there's a lot of value on the table there. He's down in that kind of range where with Christian Kirk of guys who I think are going to vastly outproduce. They're kind of in that bucket of guys who are going to produce past their ADP, but because maybe they're a little bit older or not on a fun young team, they're down in value, but their production is going to outweigh that.
Totally. Yep. That was the one guy I really liked, him and Curtis Samuel. But I just think down at 40, 48, 45, whatever it is, like that is a smash in my opinion. That's him. Like, just like I think we talked about it 2 weeks ago with Christian Kirk, like coming off the injury, but like just if Adam Thielen could do it, I think Diontae Johnson can do it and even better.
Yeah, Diontae Johnson's in that same bucket as like Terry McLaurin, and Christian Watson. All of these guys, like Alvin Kamara, a bunch of guys here, Najee Harris, that like if I could just trade them all straight up for Diontae, I'd do it. He's actually in the same bucket as like Marquise, like Hollywood Brown. So give me Ron, you like Hollywood. Would you do Hollywood or Diontae straight up?
Ooh. I think I'll take Diontae. I had a love affair with Diontae when he was in Pittsburgh, and a little nervous because Pittsburgh knows when to get out of these receivers, as we've seen, a la Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool. There's probably a few other names. Marcus Wheaton, maybe. Who's the speedster?
Martavis Bryant.
Martavis Bryant. Thank you. Yes.
He's good.
So the Steelers just know,
that's
like,
not fair.
I'm just saying, like, the Steelers know when to look.
No,
I don't know. They just know when to get out on these guys, and the Steelers are a really smart organization. They've been competitive for 700 damn years, and the league hasn't even been around that long, and they were winning games. It makes me nervous when they ship a guy off and they just wash their hands of it. Like, they're cool with hanging out with George Pickens and all his craziness, but you ship off Diontae Johnson. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think there was like some reports of him being immature. But I don't know if that's truthful or whatever. But I don't know. I don't worry too much. I think he's going to be fine. He gets like peppered with targets. He did in Pittsburgh. He will in Carolina. So I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you guys, and I like I said, I've always liked Diontae Johnson, but when I see that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't want you anymore, it just little alarm bell, saying pay attention a little bit here.
No, I get it.
That's totally fair.
Should we get into the tight ends?
Yeah, they all suck.
What a gross group.
It's all loose ends here.
So let's put it this way. The free agents that were out there this year were Zach Ertz, Austin Hooper, Gerald Everett. Do any of them matter or are relevant to any of you?
I can see a world where Zach Everett. If you combine Zach Ertz and Gerald Everett, there will be a useful play. No. I could see a world where Ertz could be useful just because of the rookie quarterback, a little bit of safety blanket. He's an experienced vet. He's got experience with Cliff Kingsbury in the system. And, eventually Ertz goes to the Hall of Fame. And you can say what you will about him being, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, Zach Ertz. Yeah, he will. But I just think that he's a savvy enough vet and he can help himself out. I think he could be helpful to Jaden Daniels. Look at the tight end landscape too. I mean, what does it take to be relevant?
Wes thinks these tight ends are so bad he'd take Parkinson's disease over them.
Oh my Lord.
He was just kidding. He was just kidding.
I know he is.
But yeah, no, I don't.
They are bad.
I think Ertz may be the beginning of the season. But to be honest, if you're starting any of these, sorry. I think that's the best way to put it. I think
you're done. Yeah.
I think I just drafted Gerald Everett at like round 26 in a startup I did, and I didn't feel good about it. But no, if anything, there's got to be an injury for Jared Everett. Austin Hooper, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what team he's on. I think he's on the Patriots. Yeah. And so,
that's
and
fine.
then I think Zach Ertz is just there for the leadership. than anything.
I think he's there to help Sennett be a better tight end and a good locker room guy.
So yeah, if I had to pick one of these guys, it would be Zach Ertz, just because the rookie, and but I do really like Ben Sennett, and so I think he's going to hit the ground running.
All three of these guys have rookie quarterbacks and are not on like high volume passing offenses. I just don't feel good about any of them. I don't even think I waste a roster spot on Hooper. Zach Ertz and Everett, I'm fine rostering them. I definitely don't want to see the day where I have to put them in my starting lineup.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
We play in some start 2 tight end leagues.
I would not feel good about them even in those. Ertz maybe.
Yeah.
You might catch a touchdown, like fall in the end zone.
Right.
I think I play in 1-2 tight end, maybe 2, and it was a startup this offseason, and I went my first 2 rounds. I went crap. I'm gonna forget now. Tight end, and I went
Bowers.
Yeah. No, I went Laporta and McBride. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I learned from my first, actually, when I started playing Dynasty, I started in 2 tight end leagues.
That's a rough place to start.
I always, when I played redraft, I operated off the streaming tight ends, learning from the footballers. So I went into my 2 tight end leagues saying, man, I'll just grab a bunch of these back end dudes. Oh my Lord. I think I'm still fixing a few rosters in their tight end spots. If you ever play in a 2 tight end league, just draft your tight ends early and just get to freaking 4 of them if you can. Yep. Do what you got to do, man.
Some good ones. Because there are so many good wide receivers that come into the league every year. Not so much tight ends. We've been spoiled lately, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, we got very spoiled last year. Very
a bunch of good ones.
Yeah. And the quarterbacks.
Yeah,
we really only had Kirk Cousins, didn't we?
Cousins, and then I threw Rodgers on there just because we got to see him for about 8 seconds last year.
Sure,
so he's basically still new, but quarterbacks too. They don't walk very often. The only 2 from the last couple of years was Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. Carr was about the same in New Orleans as he was in Vegas. Baker Mayfield was significantly better, but that was Baker's kind of a one-off kind of scenario there. Cousins, I think, is in a good situation. He's got a good offensive line in front of him. He's got a okay defense. He's got a bad division. He's going to play in a dome. He should be good to go. Aaron Rodgers makes me nervous, though. I feel good about buying Kirk Cousins. I don't feel any kind of comfy getting Aaron Rodgers in any scenario.
Man,
Wes said it here, but I'm surprised we missed your boy Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, Minshew Mania. The starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders.
I didn't include Minshew because he technically signed as a backup last year and then moved, and now he's in a quarterback competition. I tried to focus more on guys who were like actual starting roles. But we can talk about Minshew. I don't want to buy him either.
Yeah, I don't want to buy him either. So Cousins, this is good, Wes. I like Cousins, but where is he in 2 years?
Still snapping the ball.
I still think he's starting, even though they drafted
go to San Francisco.
Yeah, I think he's still playing. Maybe to be wild, maybe not in Atlanta, but I think he is still playing in Atlanta.
I think the kind of like quarterback Kirk Cousins is, it doesn't, like, his age in 2 years isn't going to affect how he plays, unless he has some kind of like significant like shoulder or like arm injury. But I mean, that could happen to anyone, right? So I feel pretty okay, and I think his contract, he's locked into Atlanta for 3 years unless they're going to eat a bunch of money, which they've done with Matt Ryan. So I guess you just never know. But and then Rodgers, dude, I don't know, like he's not even at camp right now. He went to some whatever drug thing he does. He went to one of those camps again. So
yeah, I would after we talked about it 2 weeks ago, like I looked into it a little bit more, and I do not feel good about Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think, like, I don't know, we're at best I would only want to play him if I had to in a bye week situation.
to be honest, Aaron Rodgers is the reason why I can't fully buy into Garrett Wilson, just because I just don't trust it, because Aaron Rodgers hasn't played that well the last few years. He's ever since what was it, the COVID year, he won MVP, and then after that he's kind of just started going slowly down the drain. Now he's coming off a major injury. And then when he was at camp, we saw him, every 2 seconds going off the sideline, getting his foot rubbed. And so I don't know what's totally his shenanigans. I don't know if he's all the way right. And that worries me a little bit.
I think with Kirk too, back to Wes's question about where is he in 2 years. I'm also with you guys. It won't matter because of the style quarterback he is, but also Kirk's a mercenary. He's going to go where he has a chance to win, where there's good weapons. And whoever when I say he's a mercenary, I mean, he's going to get a huge contract, but it's going to be a playoff team. It's going to keep him relevant for as long as he is in the league. I think
he's also only 35. So he's not as old as we think. He is. Like Aaron Rodgers is 39 or going on 40, for example. So theoretically, Cousins could play for 5 more years.
For 5, yeah.
So I feel confident buying Kirk Cousins that even if I only get 2 good years out of him, I feel like it's worth the investment. Because right now I think you're going to pay maybe a late first, probably late first.
Well, I can't even sell him, so I think it's the type of.
I have 4 quarterbacks in that league.
It's not you. It's just it's just
I'm
me.
sure it's a bunch of people. It's mixed bag.
It's everybody.
Will he still be offered a big contract again? You know what? There's always going to be a desperate quarterback team.
Yes.
A desperate team for a quarterback who's going to be willing to pay someone.
Yeah. Agreed.
I 100% agree as well. And maybe he shocks us all and he takes a discount at the tail end of his career to go play on a better team.
Maybe
just to
try
set
to win
himself up.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, try to win a Super Bowl. I don't know, but it's my mom's favorite player, so yeah. He went to Michigan. He went to Michigan State, so
he was a Spartan. I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Many moons ago, he played with a guy named Le'Veon Bell. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. But
did he? They were on the same team.
Wow.
I think so. Yeah. I'm 92% sure it's very long ago.
Fun facts.
Fun fact. That's what you can. That's
Fun
what you
fact. Prove me wrong.
You are right. You are right, Ron.
Yes. Oh man.
Because I think Le'Veon Bell is still pretty young. Yeah, he played from 2010 to 2012. So.
Oh yeah. Yes, indeed. They played in that game where we all learned about Sean Oakman and him being a giant freaking mammoth of a man. When he walks, do you know who Sean Oakman is? The Baylor defensive end. He's a freaking huge dude. He came out to the coin toss with his shirt all rolled up, but he's 6'5", 300 pounds, and there's not an ounce of fat on the dude.
Oh, I know. I googled the picture. You're talking about.
Yeah.
He had green hair back in that one picture.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Google that. He's a mammoth of a man.
Freak of nature, that's for sure. Any other parting thoughts before I get too much more?
I got nothing.
Nothing.
All righty. Well, see you guys next week.
Catch you next time. Peace out.